turning to God itself is a good thing. When you're distressed, you don't know where to look, so you pray to God and you ask Him. So there's a nice anecdote he gives in the book, and he says that Nyandev went to Namdev and he said, "Will you come with me for a pilgrimage?" So now, wait, I will go and ask God whether I can come with you or no. So he goes to God, and then with tears in his eyes, he's asking God, "Should I go for a pilgrimage?" And then he gets the answer, we don't know how, and then he goes. So, at any step, if we can approach God for anything we want, whether it's material, physical, emotional, like the example of Dhruv. Dhruv is kind of dismissed by his father when he goes to his father and tells him, "Can I sit in your lap?" Because his stepbrother is sitting on the father's lap. The father dismisses him and says, "No, you can't." So he goes to the Lord and he worships the Lord, and then he finds a place, a permanent place in the sky. So at every step, if one can approach God for whatever reason, then one is called noble in the next verse, in the verse after that. So last time we had some points about people keeping the idols of God, worshipping, and then carrying on with, curing the patients in a hospital. So whether now these kind of people are virtuous or not, because their motive is to earn money. It's not really praying to God with devotion. That element of devotion, of bhakti, is missing. So whether we can call them devotees or whether they are simply materialistic people trying to gain more and more wealth. So you see, I was thinking about how when we left at this point, and Dr. Saab always used to tell us the story of these two thieves. They were thieves, and they were employing different methods to steal, pickpocketing and other methods. And one day, one of them comes up with a bright idea. He says, "Why don't we both disguise as sadhus, wear saffron robes, and go to some particular village and sit there?" One of them says, "You close your eyes and you sit down in meditation, and I'll praise you. I'll say, here is a big yogi who's come from the mountains, and people will put money in front of us, and in that way, we will amass a lot of money." So they both agree. So one of them sits down, and the other one sings his praises, and people indeed come and keep a lot of money in front of them. So at night, they take away the loot, and this goes on for 2, 3 days. After the third day, this guy whose eyes are closed, he says, "You take away all this money, and I am getting a lot of peace in this praying to God. And from now onwards, I am not going to steal anything. I am simply going to sit and I am going to meditate on God because it's giving me a peace which I've never ever experienced before." So if this kind of a transformation happens, then we can call them Sukritin. Until then, we can't. So the point is that when you worship God, then there has to be an inner transformation. Till that point, we can't say we are really worshipping. So this is the point which this verse is making. If we have any thoughts, or we can move on to the next verse.
See, over a period of time, I have found that it's good to move away from the material spiritual dichotomy.
Okay.
Right. Because, like I also I think mentioned last time, that these principles are valid both in this world as much as in the other world. I mean, at least that's my experience, right? Right or wrong.
So you are very, very right. You have just hit the bullseye, because Vinoba Bhave says the same thing. He says purification of material life is spirituality.
Exactly. Absolutely. I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very well stated.
Yeah. So that's Vinoba's. He's saying, what is spirituality? You don't grow two horns on your head. It's just a purification of your day-to-day material life that is called spirituality.
Absolutely. That's a very useful articulation. For couple of reasons.
Yeah.
One, first of all, you don't decry anybody,
Yeah.
and that's the most criminal of criminals.
Yeah.
Who are we to kind of call
Right.
them this way? That second, this is a little more promising in that it allows us to marry both what we call as the worldly or family life with
Yeah.
the other life. Otherwise, it tends to, at the beginning, it tends to feel like a burden. Oh, I have to be a spiritual person. I have to do this also. So that it's an integrated path, and thereby I think वो ज़्यादा सुलभ है थोड़ा सा, ऐसा मुझे लगता है. So,
Very true.
yes.
Very true. Yeah. Good. That's a very good revelation kind of. Yes. Uh, shall we move on to the next verse, sir? You have to unmute yourself.
तेषां ज्ञानी नित्ययुक्त एकभक्तिर्विशिष्यते प्रियो हि ज्ञानिनोत्यर्थम् अहं सच.
So he says the Gyan of these, the best, the man of wisdom, ever steadfast in identity with me and of exclusive devotion. For I am extremely dear to the wise man who knows me in reality, and he is extremely dear to me. So he says that Eka Bhakti Vishishyate, that one pointedness is very important, where becomes the focal point, the center point of your life, around which all your activities revolve. Like Sunil ji was saying, spirituality is nothing but you keep that as the center. And all your house activities, material activities revolve. So if you're constant, like Janak, and again, this word, this sentence was heard at the institute. Khuda ko bhi khidmat pasand hai. God also likes that one-pointedness love for him.
No, what is that statement?
खुदा को भी खिदमत पसंद है. खुदा को भी पसंद है खिदमत और खुदा को भी पसंद है और खिदमत पसंद है. Says that I am very dear to this Jnani and he is also very dear to me. Naturally, if somebody loves wholeheartedly without any other thought, naturally those feelings will be evoked in us also. So the words he uses are Nitya Yukta, Eka Bhaktir Vishishyate. So any thoughts on this? One-pointed devotion. When we have this kind of a devotion, naturally God also loves us. We feel that love. We start feeling it. We start experiencing it in our day-to-day life. Everything becomes according to His will. उनकी मर्जी से हो रहा है, उसकी मर्जी से हो रहा है. And there is no conflict in the mind because you accept everything. Everything is according to His wish. There is love. There is total acceptance. There is no resistance. There is no conflict. So again, I think I'll repeat the story of the one which we had heard of this couple who got married, and the man was in love with another woman. And every day, every evening, he used to go to her house and visit her. Then one fine day, he falls sick, and his wife doesn't object. She knows it, and he's unable to even walk, and he's very listless and sad and depressed. So she actually carries him and she takes him to that lady's house, to his lover's house. And then that other lady, she tells this man that you have such a wonderful wife at home. Why do you come and visit me? And then this man gets some sense into his head and he goes back to his wife. So it's a long drawn process, no doubt, but one is persistent and one keeps that focus in mind that this is all I need in life, then things can happen. So it's not an easy way, but one has to continuously persist. So, any questions on this? Any thoughts on this? Or we can move on to the next verse.
उदारा सर्व एवैते ज्ञानी त्वामैव मे मतम् आस्थितः स हि युक्तात्मा मामेवानुत्तमां गतिम्.
So he says, Udara, indeed, all these are noble, but the man of wisdom is my very self. Such is my view. For such a devotee who has his mind and intellect merged in me is established in me alone as a high. That one pointedness of goal is important. This is what I want in the material life. This is what I want. Then the right kind of people come your way. You're persistent. Like at the institute, we have one senior sadhak, and he says the principal method in life is only abhyas. It happens. Abhyas. You go on persisting, go on persisting, go on persisting, and things happen. So,
I would just slightly beg to differ a
Yeah.
little bit. In that,
Yeah.
it's like, I think you said this before, but
Yeah.
these are the Abhyas and Vairagya are the two ends of the spectrum, or they're two kind of, the Sankhya and the Yoga. And, just persisting with the will,
Yeah.
however strong, would be incomplete and actually a lot more onerous. And while the वैराग्य बहुत सुलभ है एक्चुअली, भक्ति सारी वैराग्य के ऊपर ही है, लेकिन हमारी हैबिट्स इतनी entrenched हैं कि हम डायरेक्टली वैराग्य पहुंच नहीं पाते.
Yeah.
So if we address from both sides, it's like burning a candle from both ends, then it will burn so much faster.
Yeah.
So that's why I feel that.
Running down Vairagya, but we are saying that we are so persistent that the other things just fall off. Like the dry leaves just fall off. You're holding on to the good, the bad is just naturally falling. Of course, they both are parallel. I mean, it's not one without the other, but the other happens naturally. That's all.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. It
That's
won't
right.
be one the other.
You start from here and you also end up there, or you start from the other side and you end up here.
Yeah.
They just kind of move together. Like.
Yeah. That's what it means. Yeah. And see, this bhakti is given more importance. Like Vinoba says that you have all these techniques. You have all kinds of techniques. But he says they are like, the agents. You have a bleach. When you're washing clothes, you have the bleach, you have the soap, and you have all those kind of things. So the techniques are like that. But he says bhakti, it's like water. Without water, those techniques are just like, you can't really wash away the dirt. So he says his bhakti is the one which washes away the finer impurities in the mind. The devotion has to be there. Like when we say the definition of abhyas includes devotion.
Absolutely.
Devotion comes, then that just happens normally. The impurities are just washed off. One gets more and more purer and purer and purer, and one is just persisting with that. This is another angle to look at it. That's all. So, shall we go on to the next verse, please?
Ashaji,
Yes.
how do you distinguish between Jigyasu and Gyani?
Yeah. So the Jigyasu, he says, he goes into the why and wherefore of things. How? Where did God come from? And with that also he reaches the ultimate end. Like if I go on persisting, how is it? Like suppose I worship the sun. So I go into the details of the sun. How does the sun get the light? How does it move from the sky? How does the moon get the light from the sun? How does the sun move towards the north? Why does it move towards the south 6 months? So I go into details of everything, and really I reach that one end. So um, he goes into the various details of everything. And the Jnani has understood. He says everything is him. Everything just happens from him. So now he has put his intellect to rest. He says, I found there is just one principle and I have to persist with that. So the Jigyasu is still learning, still digging, still finding out. He may take up any area or he takes up multiple areas slowly, and then he comes to the same end. But his process is. And the Jnani by now has understood. So he doesn't go anywhere. He just sits in one place and he focuses on that one eternal principle. So at the moment, we are all questioning how, what are the gunas, what is this, what is that, what are the bhutas, what are the tattvas, what are the Upanishads, what is this. So we are still into, so the Jnana is still at a different level. But the Jnani has surpassed all this. He has firmly concluded that there is only one, and from which everything arises. He doesn't want to know the different, he wants to know that.
Right.
So, shall we do 7.19?
Sir, Jigyasu with WIP.
Work in progress.
Yeah. And Gani's end product.
Progressed.
Sorry.
बहूनां जन्मनामन्ते ज्ञानवान् मां प्रपद्यते वासुदेवः सर्वमिति स महात्मा सुदुर्लभः.
Yeah. So, in the very last of birth, or after many births, the enlightened person worships me, realizing that all this is God or Vasudeva. Such a great soul is rare in me. So, it takes time to reach this state. That's why he's calling all those earlier people, earlier devotees as noble. Because ultimately, as you go on worshipping God, as you go on deepening your bhakti, you reach the same goal. But it takes a lot of time. Now, time over here is the end of many births. It's not just, a week or a month. It could be, in some cases, who have already purified themselves, like Mirabai or Kabir or so many other great saints, so many Paramhasas, Ramakrishna, Vivekanand, Ramana Rishi, the Indian ones. And then we have so many of the world over. So they are just not limited to. So we have such sages and saints, but they have gone through this process. And then they come to the conclusion that they are one. And here he calls it, they are great and they are difficult to find. So this is what this verse means. We do the next verse, sir.
Yes. कामैस्तैस्तैर्हृतज्ञाना प्रपद्यन्ते न्यदेवताः तन्तन्नियममास्थाय प्रकृत्या नियता स्वया.
So he says, those whose wisdom has been carried away by various desires, being prompted by their own nature, worship other deities, adopting norms relating to each. So, you see, we are we move according to our own nature. I may want certain things and I worship certain gods, and somebody worships certain other gods. So the world over, we see people worshipping so many things. Founder very humorously points out that in India, people can just pick up a stone on the highway and put a vermilion tika over it and put some flowers around it, and all the passers-by will stand there and worship. So anything can become a god. It's your faith, and it's what you want in life, your motivation, your desire. And then they go through the various rituals. They may fast, they may sing bhajans, they may visit pilgrimages. So many options are there. To their own nature and desires, people worship other. So it's also like whoever has the power to give you something can be worshipped. The sun has the power to give you light, the moon gives you something, or even in the king can give you something, the boss can give you something. So many gods are there. And you can, whoever has the power to give you something, you start worshipping them. But the highest power is different. So we will read first, we will understand this.
So this is a very interesting verse.
Yes.
In the sense it says that Jnana can be hijacked by desire. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you need Jnana and Bhakti and Yoga. All
Yeah.
Nitya Yukta. Nitya Yukta also talks about yoga. No?
Yeah.
Yoga, Bhakti. Is this what is it?
So till got to this point, Vinoba says that he's an example of a chocolate, of a sweetmeat rather. Now, if you have a piece of mithai, if you bite it, now that small piece is also to give you the taste. It has some weight. It has mass. So he says it has gyan, bhakti, and karma. Even a little piece. The whole also has, and the little also has. And so he says it is an amalgamation. You can't separate it. You can't say this much, has sweetness and the other piece doesn't have. This itself weighs something. It may be 100 grams or it may be 1 kilo. So it's all together. You can't separate these things.
Mm-hmm.
Or he says, like, if there is a people in the jail and there's a cook, so he cooks for them. And he knows how to cook, but he has no bhakti. He just puts in the masalas, he'll put in the water, and he'll make some insipid kind of a food. But if he says, "Kids, these are my brothers, they have suffered, they are eating this kind of food every day," and he puts in a little bit of more love and attention, then he can cook good food. So the bhakti is there, the gyan is there, and the karma is there. He says the karma and the gyan alone won't lead you anywhere. That bhakti is an essential thing. Or even the knowledge. He says if a mother is there and she has children and she has a lot of love for them and she wants to cook good food for them and she's doing the karma and she has the love, but she has no knowledge of cooking. So he said each is incomplete without the other. All these three are like a tripod. Even if one of the leg is not there, they won't be able to stand. So yes.
But in that case, Ashaji, what is it that prompts such people to go to other deities, worship other deities?
Calm. He's written calm.
कामैस्तैस्ते ऋतज्ञान प्रपद्यन्ते देवताः.
Yeah, but it is by calm, right?
So
They would,
by worshipping other deities, they are going to gain some advantage or gain some sensual pleasures, or what is it?
yeah,
Comforts?
yeah, they are going to get those things. Yeah. Why would we go to somebody who's, I don't, if we read the other verse, we understand. Or okay, so we'll discuss this without reading the other verses. How would you look at it? Why would I go to another deity? One, because I don't understand that there is a higher power. One, I don't. The other one, I don't have the capacity to understand. It's like if I go to a store, a big mall to buy something, and then there is a manager over there. There's a salesman over there, and I tell the salesman that, "Can you give me some discount?" And he gives it to me. And then over a period of time, I also improve my status in life, and I am friendly with the manager, and I go to the manager. The manager gives me a little more discount, but I've still not reached the position where I'm friendly with the boss. And the boss, if I'm really friendly with him, may tell me just take it for free. So I want certain things, like I may want God also, but I approach God. At this moment, God is something very high. At this moment, I'm led by desires. So I worship these gods. And I feel that there is nothing about them, and they are only going to satisfy my desires. So I don't have the proper knowledge as yet, and so I worship them, following different kinds of rituals. This is my take on it based on the following verses. So maybe we could come back to this after reading the other verses.
Okay. Okay. यो यो यां यां तनुं भक्तः श्रद्धयार्चितुमिच्छति
Vididhamya aham. So, yeah, we come back to the same point that whatever form you worship, that I make the faith strong, achalam. So see, prompted by my own desire or by my own nature, I worship the different gods because I'm still not knowledgeable. I worship them, and who makes faith strong is that highest power. Like I said, we may, settle for the small discounts of life, and we may say, yeah, I go here, I get a lot of, and I get good stuff from here. But we still don't know the highest power who makes all this possible. I make this faith unflinching, and so I worship the other gods because I have faith in them. I don't know if this is clear. Clear to your question as to why would I worship other gods?
No, because no, I was looking at the earlier verse 19 and 20 together, and also 17. In the sense, once he has a gyan,
Yeah.
that everything is in him and he is in everything. Once that gyan is there, how can calm, that is desire, reject that gyan?
Yeah, but
So
that gyan is
which means that even after you have acquired gyan, you need to be
no,
nitya yukta and ekabhakti.
no, no, no. It would mean that your gyan is not firm. You haven't attained the highest gyan. That highest knowledge, when it comes, then it never goes away. Please, Eka Bhakti Visheshyate. Once your knowledge is incomplete, till then you are just moving from here to there. But once your knowledge is complete, then your faith is very firm. Then you don't have so much in life. Then there is just one focus. So the gyan is not firm. You're still in the process of acquiring gyan. See, I don't know. I would also look at it at the way we do our practices. There are so many asanas. Every day there's a new asana coming up. At the moment, I'm learning new things. But then it's not interesting me at the moment because, okay, you do learn. It's good to gain knowledge. But then if you have found peace in something, why would you go on running behind so many others? Why?
See, here I would like to state the example of Ramakrishna Paramahans.
Hmm.
So he, through the worship of Kali and his method, he did attain, right? But after attaining, most Gyanis would have settled down. But he said, okay, now let me see.
Hmm.
Can the same result be achieved through other sadhanas? So he did, Sufi Islamic sadhana, he attained. Then he still didn't settle down. Then he did, Christian sadhana, and he attained. Right? So, and I think it's very valuable that even a Jnani would not just, kind of settle down, but he tries to find newer and newer ways, or to kind of establish, truths in a more, shall we say, solid way.
True, but then he comes back to Kali.
Yeah, that's right.
Thing. Yeah, so that
That's
was
right.
just experimentation. We are also, everybody's, see, we are at a state where we are still experimenting. We are still not firm. So that's what. So
All the more.
he was still in that student mode where he finds one kind of a teacher, and then he finds a different teacher. He wants to know about all the different faiths. And
No. He did this after having attained.
Yes, I know that. He
Ah.
did, but know whether all the faiths lead to the same thing. There must be a purpose in his mind. He calls the Bhairavi, he does Christianity, he does all that, right? That's very true. He does all that in his life. But finally, he settles down with Kali only. He understands everything is leading me to the same goal. But till then, the Jigyasu part is there. So till then, maybe the firm establishment, see, we don't know. Even at the higher level, there are steps. We can only.
Correct. Very true.
I am not saying that we are running down any kind of thing. It's good to be open. It's good to know. But once you have known, it's like you're digging a well. This is my personal thing. I have just felt this in life that if I go on digging wells at different places, I may not get water. But once I've understood that there is water here, maybe I have to dig 40 feet down or maybe 100 feet. If I'm going to waste energy digging 20 feet in 4 places, I might as well dig 80 feet in one place and get the water. See, at the moment, we are at the stage where we have to persist so much that we gain something out of that. After that, we can experiment with other things. But I firmly hold on to this faith. And I find, yes, the other things also lead me to the same thing, but I don't run after them. Then I come back to my original thing. So in that way, this would be my thought process. And we are all open to our thinking. Like he says that prompted by our own nature, we do things.
Ashaji, do we have time for discussing this a little?
Yes.
Yeah, we
Yes.
have
We
time.
have time because
Yes.
there are two interesting things about what Sunilji said. That on the basis of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's realizing God through different paths, subsequently, nearly 100 years later, the Ramakrishna Mission filed a petition in the court asking that its schools, educational institutions should be declared as minority institutions. Because they said, follow Ramakrishna Paramahams, who did not realize God through only one method. He realized it through all the methods, and which is unique. And therefore, nobody else subscribes to this kind of, global vision of realizing God. So we should be declared as a institution. And therefore, we should be exempted from all the rules and regulations regarding selection of teachers. So, of course, dismissed this petition, saying that this petition has been filed just to seek exemption from some rules. You have not practiced this kind of minority status through your activities over the last 100 years. You are now only taking advantage of this. So this is an example of how karma can hijack knowledge in a way. I'm not commenting on Ramakrishna Mission, but
Yeah, yeah.
I saw this as an example. Second point that I thought, I mean, I'm reading in this particular verse, in a way, I'm reading a warning to people who may have thought that they have realized God, that they can also fall back into karma,
Yes.
getting overpowered by karma.
Yeah.
That is why I went back to 7:17, where two things are being emphasized: Nitya Yukto and Eka Bhakti. So Jnana alone is not enough. You
Yeah.
have to be Nitya Yukta and Eka Bhakti.
Yeah.
That is what I thought.
Yeah.
Therefore, I read a warning signal in this 7:20.
Yeah. True. So how does that Eka Bhakti, how would you think that would be? Like, you don't move from that one pointedness? You're firm, you're unflinching in your faith, you follow it till you've got something.
See, I feel actually these three, no, karma, jnana, and bhakti, are the three stages of one and the same process. What we have delineated in the chapter, 7, the excellence process. So those, you know, the example given of the, the solar, you know, burning of the paper, the three stages of that are the universal stages, including even, God realization. That, sir, the same thing actually applies even with the appreciative intelligence. AVA are also three stages. Right? It's that either you start from the subtle, move to the gross and the grossest, where it finds the manifestation, right? Or you start from the gross, which is most often the case, and then you move to the subtle, and then to the subtlest. So in some ways, starting with karma is the grossest because it requires action, which is which we are more familiar with at the body level, at the material level. Start slowly. You move, towards gyan, which is to do things with awareness, and that brings a different quality into the performance of the karma. And then at yet another deeper stage, you do it with total devotion, or with vairagya, or with no selfish motive, or with a thing to serve. Now that brings it a completely different and a much deeper character. So really, to arrive at perfect, state of being or doing, these three stages, whether in APC or CBA, right? All these three are necessary.
Yeah. But you need some kind of knowledge, right, to begin with the karma, what karma you should do.
See, yeah, like I said, you can't even separate these things. You see, it's a cyclical, it's a helical process, right? You
Exactly.
keep moving through and slice simultaneously, keep rising up bit by bit by bit.
Correct. So
So
it's
that helix is the
yeah, you can't separate the three. The devotion see that awareness has to be there, the concentration has to be there. Okay, if you pick up any, like you can take up a random job, but you do it, you do it with awareness. Then you realize, okay, this is not done. Or you begin with knowledge, okay, this is what I should do. So which is the starting point? And the devotion can't come later on. I do it with awareness and devotion and concentration at that very point, and then only will I gain some knowledge, right? If I do it half-heartedly, how do I gain anything out of it? So it all this would be my thought. I can't do anything half-heartedly. I have to put my mind into it. awareness into, what is awareness? That I put my mind into it. And what is bhakti? That my emotion is there. Thought, emotion, and action. This is what the vritti is about. You can't separate the three. The vritti is one. It is that thought, emotion, and action. So that gyan is not firm when we are led by, other things. When it's looted away, that means it's not firm. If I am firm, okay, this is for me. If I am, I decide that this food is okay for me and every day I eat it, nothing comes in the way. Somebody's tempting me with the best of things. Okay, this will do you good. I say, no, fine. This is good for me. I follow this. We need not be fanatics. We don't have to be fanatics. Unlike Sri Ramakrishna, we cannot rule out other things. Everything, Christianity, the Tantric method, the Buddhist method, all the methods are leading to one. We respect all of them, but we hold on to our faith. This is what Ramakrishna did, or this is what one does. What is good for me, I hold on to it, at the same time respecting everything which comes along. I don't, like Sunilji, you started, that I don't run down anything. I don't decry anything. I'm not judgmental about other things. But I hold on to my faith. This is what I have got from Vinoba's talk, which he says in chapter 2, he puts a story of Pundalik. He says Pundalik to me is the highest form of what we are talking about. He says that he was worshipping his parents, and Pandurang, Vitthal comes in the form, God comes in the form of Vitthal to him. But now he's worshipping his parents. He said, even this is highest for me. You are not only in the form of Vitthal, you're in the form of my parents also. So he pushes a brick to him and he says, stand on the brick till I finish my duty towards my parents. Because I see you in the form of my parents also. So I hold on to my duties. And even God can come in any form. I'm firm about it. Wait for me. And God waits there. And then Tukaram is telling this Pundalik, what audacity you had to make the God wait on the stone. So he says, but even he's God in the form of my parents also. Where do my parents come from? So he's understood it so deeply. See, that understanding has to be very deep. So for me also now, what I say is what I've heard from Vinoba. It's not a deep understanding, but this is what I have understood. That you have to carry on and be firm on one path till you have realized, and then maybe you can find paths. Then it's so simple. Then the other paths don't take time. See, Sri Ramakrishna, when he was experimenting with the other paths, he just in an instant got to the essence of it. He didn't spend ages and years realizing those.
Nini, even though not years and years, but you see, he did spend a fair amount of time. For example, when he was when he was kind of going the path of that sect which believes that they are all Radha, so where we all females and there's only one male, which is what is the name of the sect?
Vaishnava.
I think this Vaishnava. So he became so much Radha that he started to have menstruation. I mean, among other changes. So it's not just that it's instantaneously he realized and then moved on. So each one took a fair amount of time. I think I told.
It was so fast because he did so many things in his lifetime. I don't think he had a very long life. In his 50s or 60s, he did his sadhana, and then he did so many sadhanas. What I mean is that he didn't spend a lifetime on everything. We may spend a lifetime, but in his small lifetime, he went through, like we would say, a founder. In 2 years, he had grasped everything his teacher wanted to tell him. That by human life standards is not long. Like he absolutely went into that. He became that. So to attain so many, once you're firm in one kind of thought, then the other things come easy.
Yes.
Ultimately the same thing. Well, we may have different thought processes on this, but I guess it's okay. It's good to share and it's good to know other thought processes as well. So, shall we go on?
श्रद्धया युक्तः लभते च कामान् मयैव विहितान् हितान्.
Yeah. So he says that 7.22, yeah, sorry. Endowed with such faith, he worships that particular deity and obtains through that deity without doubt his desired enjoyments as verily ordained by me. So it is just the higher power which gives the power to the other deities. Like the other gods, they are there. The boss has assigned the jobs to these other smaller gods, and it's a boss who gives them the authority. It's the boss who gives them the power. So the faith, when we get something from the gods, that faith is actually ordained by the higher power. The liberties, the powers which the smaller gods get is from the higher. Like I said, if I work in a shop and then the employee gives me some kind of a benefit, so he has the authority from the high to give me that benefit. Out of his own free will, he cannot give me the benefit. The benefits which I derive from the other gods, the power actually comes from the higher supreme force. Who gives the gods the power is the question. Because in the next verse, as he says, that the benefits which we receive are all limited. But if I go to this highest power, benefit is eternal. So maybe we can read the next one.
अन्तवत्तु फलं तेषां तद्भवत्यल्पमेधसां देवान् देवयजो यान्ति मद्भक्ता यान्ति माम.
So he says the fruit gained by these people of small understanding, however, is perishable. The worshippers of gods attain the gods, whereas my devotees, howsoever worship me, eventually come to me. And so why does he make the faith of the other people strong? When we worship the other gods also, he says there is a merit in worshipping the other gods also. When I worship somebody, it means that I feel that I am not capable of gaining anything, or I feel that there is a higher power above me, and a higher power. I feel that there is somebody above me, so I rise up myself and I worship somebody higher than me. That the highest makes that faith higher powers. So wherever I become, um, it's okay. It's noble because I'm kind of transcending my little self and worshipping something which is higher than me. At the moment, I think that is the highest, but slowly as I raise myself, I go even higher, higher till I reach the highest. In that way, the stages are there. When I move up slowly, then I realize that this is all perishable. I have one desire, it's fulfilled. Then I have another desire, it's fulfilled. Then there is pain, then there is desire is fulfilled. Then there is a kind of a plateau or there is a pain. And finally, I reach that. But he says, my devotees come to me. Then there is no falling back, then there is no going back. So any questions on this?
So in effect, we are saying that the summit is one. Now there are 100 paths that you can, approach it from.
Yes.
At the end of the day, that's where you reach.
But if you keep changing your paths, then it could be a problem. If on the way, yes, the paths change naturally, it's fine. I go towards a certain path and then I realize I need to take a shortcut, or I need to take this path which is easier, or there are other paths which will lead me faster. Yeah, it is fine. But at least my focus is one. Or if I have an overview, okay, I have really spent a lot of time and I've decided this is the road which is the best, then I take that. Then I don't get tempted by other things on the way. So, shall we do the next verse? Sorry.
Yes.
I can ask Mahendra sir, आपको कुछ कहना है? You have said anything today? Give your point of view on anything we've discussed.
1 minute.
Okay.
Disconnected. 1 minute. Okay. So, a modern message, present day message, the modern message of the 21st century or the 20th century. We should not restrict ourselves to the law of Einsteinian relativity. If we stop or restrict ourselves to the principle of relativity, who will discover the law of the absolute? Is different techniques, whether the Jnana Vijnana, Bhakti, or the Karma, all vibrating from one to another string, depending upon the time factor,
Right.
reminding us that we have to reach to the law of the absolute. And in process, is a smaller relative functions.
Yeah.
This DT, that desire, that awareness should not stop us.
True.
So that is the goal. The
Yes.
3 techniques, I would name techniques only because dharma, jnana, bhakti. In all, we are forgetting what is known as the ego. The surrender, as Ashaji pointed out, to the devotion. When the term devotion comes, see, that means the ego factor has gone. That
Correct.
is gone.
Very true.
And that should always be maintained
Yes.
to reach to the highest awareness. So off and on, we have been discussing about techniques, but we must keep in our mind that it is the absolute that exists and we must work on
Towards-
that one.
Yeah.
Yes. That's
Yes. Absolutely wonderful. Yeah. That surrender idea, that I've totally surrendered myself to that one thing, and nothing is going to take me away from there.
yes.
When I've submitted, when I've surrendered,
Yes.
then now it's like Hanuman had totally surrendered himself to Ram. There was nothing else.
The story of Guru Gobind Singh,
Yeah.
I don't know if time or not.
Yes, sir. We have time. Once we are clear on this, then the other verses go on very fast. So we are okay to discuss.
Okay. See, the story of Guru Nanak,
Yeah.
at the quiet end, when he became quite old, he wanted to hand over the guruship to some of his disciples. And there was the time of selection as to who he should hand over the charge. So he have been testing off and on. One fine day, maybe the last day, At midnight, he said to all of his students, भाई मुझे कल मुझे कहीं एक संगत में जाना है, रात हो गई है, कोई ऐसा है क्या जो मेरे कपड़े धो के अभी 2 घंटे में ले आए, धो के और सुखा के लेके आए। रात का टाइम है, 10-11 बजे की बात है, 2 बजे तक उनको कपड़े चाहिए, सूखे हुए धुले हुए चाहिए। So the couple of Shishyas were there. So none could speak anything. In fact, it was raining outside. So how it is possible? Within 2 hours, he should go wash and get it dried also. But one of the student, Lehna Singh, Lehna said, I will do. I will do it. He took up the cloth, went outside. And at 2, within 2 hours, he came back with the clothes completely washed and dried up. So everybody was surprised. How it happened? It's outside, it's raining. And he says, where is the rain? Where is the rain? I went to the river. There was no rain at all. It was dry. It was hot. I washed it. I dried the clothes. Came back. Now, the same story the next day, probably that was the final day, he went for bath near the river and called all the disciples. Or there was a dead body lying over. The dead body by So he asked his disciples कि भाई ये एक डेड बॉडी है रिवर पे और आप लोगों में से कौन है जिसको खा सकता है? Who can eat it? So nobody was. How can anybody eat the dead body? All left the place. The Lehna again. He was there. He went to the dead body. And he was sitting there. After some time, Guru Nanak asked him, सब तो चले गए, आप खाने के लिए बैठे हो, आप इसको खाते क्यों नहीं? Why don't you eat? So he said, I am waiting for your orders कि मैं इसको पैर की तरफ से खाऊं कि सर की तरफ से खाऊं. आप मुझे बता दीजिए, मैं शुरू करता हूं खाना. तो he says कि तुम सर की तरफ से स्टार्ट करो, इस बॉडी को खाना सर से स्टार्ट करो. And he went to the head side, removed the sheet, removed the bed sheet, and it was only flowers, lots of flowers lying over there. Only flowers. Now, that is the kind of Shraddha or faith or devotion that is needed, in fact, and we are talking about that. That was the last day of Guru Nanak, and he, in fact, got hold of foot of the Shishya, और he says, आज से तो मेरा अंग है. I am handing over the charge to you. You become. उनको पैर पकड़ लिए, और since उनको पैर पकड़ने के बाद उन्होंने कहा कि तू मेरा अंग है, उनका नाम अंगद देव जी वहां से उस दिन से हो गया. He was the second guru. He was the second guru. The first name was Lehna. और कहते हैं कि लहना या अंगद देव ने अपने पैर के अंगूठे को श्राप दिया ये तो सबसे गिरा हुआ है बॉडी का पार्ट है जिस पर हमारे गुरु का शीश पड़ा है आज, तो सारी दुर्गति हो जाएगी। एंड इट इज सेड कि उसके उस पार्ट में काफी उनको इंजरी थी, एंड ही ऑलवेज केप्ट दैट लाइफ। उसका उन्होंने कोई इलाज नहीं किया, कुछ नहीं किया, जस्ट रिमेंबर हिज गुरु ऑलवेज। Now this is what is required, the faith or the Shraddha. I mean, just a real story, a true story. Have a degree of faith. And this is what is required to reach, that nearer to some extent. Yes. Mute, you are mute. You are mute.
Faith makes your mind one-pointed. Doubt scatters your mind. And you cannot achieve the highest without that one-pointedness of mind. Okay, so we have time. Shall we do one more verse, sir? We have time. 7.24.
अव्यक्तं व्यक्तिमापन्नं मन्यन्ते माम् अबुद्धयः परं भावम् अजानन्तो ममाव्ययम् अनुत्तमम्.
Not knowing my supreme nature, unsurpassable and undecaying, the ignorant persons regard me, who am the supreme spirit beyond the reach of mind and senses, and the embodiment of truth, knowledge, and bliss, to have assumed a finite form through birth as an ordinary human being. So, the people who are ignorant, who are foolish, they think that the visible form is God. We are not able to feel the difference between the Purush and the Prakriti, or the Atma and the body. And they cannot think that the Atma is imperishable, unchangeable. This is what it says. Any questions on this? Shall we go on to the next verse? The ignorant are not able to see the difference.
नाहं प्रकाशः सर्वस्य योगमाया समावृतः मूढोऽयं नाभिजानाति लोको माम् अजमव्ययम्.
Yeah. So, veiled by my Yog Maya, I am not manifest to all. Hence, these ignorant folk fail to recognize me, the birthless, the imperishable, supreme deity. Consider me as subject to birth. So he says that Ana Aham Prakasha. The highest reality is not available to everyone. It's not available to the ordinary people. The highest reality can be seen only by the grace of that highest reality. When you worship that highest reality, you again and again coming back to the same thing, that this Maya very, very difficult to cross over. But once you persist, you can cross over to that Maya. You can cross over that Maya. And whom do you worship then? You understand that there is somebody beyond that Maya, and you worship that somebody beyond. But this world is deluded by the Maya. Not easy.
What is Yoga Maya, Ashaji?
Yoga over here is divine. Because the Maya is also called divine. In this, the meaning which I have is a divine Maya. Prakriti is also divine because it comes from him. I don't know. Mahendraji, would you like to say something or any other thoughts on this Yoga Maya? For me, what I have is my divine Maya, which comes from me, so it is considered as divine. Sunilji, you have any thoughts on this? Why is it called Yoga Maya?
Mhm. maybe it could mean, yogic shakti se, because he is आगे speaking about कि मैं योग माया से छिपा हुआ मैं प्रत्यक्ष नहीं होता. So, one of the siddhis is to be able to,
See,
to disappear or to not allow oneself to be seen. So that might be the योग माया मतलब योग की शक्ति से. Could be.
So this highest reality is not available to everybody, but actually the highest reality is there all around us. It's there in the leaf, it's there in the flower, it's there in the insects, in the sun, in the moon, in the air, in everything. What makes all of that move? We are unable to see. It's there, it's there. The power is there all around us. But we are unable to see it. Because we are deluded. So if we go on with this verse, then we will be talking the same thing. So maybe we can go on to the next verse.
In my house, so you have.
Is there a disturbance? Okay.
Now it's
Yeah.
Vedaham samatitani vartamanani cha bhavishyani cha bhutani man vedana kaschana.
So he says, all beings past as well as present, even those that are yet to come, but none devoid of faith and devotion knows me. Nobody knows me. How can we know him also? It's so powerful. It's so all-encompassing. How can we know? He knows everything, the past, the present, the future. It's like if somebody's standing on the mountain, can see down. But somebody who's down, he can't see everything. The one who's at a higher point can see everything below him. So God knows because he's the one who's made the laws. He's the one who's made all the arrangements. So he's the creator. So naturally, he knows everything. It's like even the scientist would know, but he would know a limited way. God knows everything. He knows everything. Sir, you're on mute, sir.
No, what I'm saying is, if we look at these verses from say 7:21 onwards, the trend. I mean, there is a particular sense that people may worship others, but that is not me. But that is, and
Yes,
they may think that
true.
they are worshipping God, but that is not me.
That's not me. True. Yes, sir, that's true.
So should we understand that this is also Yoga Maya, which is in everybody else's mind, which is actually obstructing, or you can say covering the understanding of the others in recognizing self. This is how we can.
But that would only be Maya. Why Yog Maya? Maya is that which veils.
Because yoga is related to awareness and Maya is illusion. So the awareness of it is not allowing us to, as the truth of the self is already existing. So we need to understand that true nature existing. We feel that this is the ultimate. For example, in a circus, if you see a juggler, the juggler has his own knowledge of juggling the balls, 3-4 balls, and making a circle over there out of the balls. But what people see it as magic. People see as something which is extraordinary and something different. But it is the juggler who knows what kind of skill he is having and what he is doing. So that is his yoga and that is our yoga. So we are understanding the things with that illusion which is being created. So somewhere I feel we need to come to the understanding of our true knowledge, which will help us to go beyond the things which are misguiding us, or not misguiding, but deluding us or illusionizing us. So there it is said that everybody has illusion, but it is their yoga also, because it is something that they are aware about it. So somewhere I was coming to this kind of conclusion. Everybody has their own conscience and they are taking things as per their own belief. So somewhere they are deprived of the knowledge. So maybe one should strive for the truth and keep on excelling towards that.
Mm.
So just thinking about like that. Maybe I am slightly distracted, but at the same time, that was a belief.
Okay.
My bandwidth is very low, so I'm not able to switch on my camera.
No, I was thinking that in the light of the sequence of verses, if I worship a lesser God and he grants my wishes, and then I think that I am actually worshipping God, that is an illusion.
Mm.
Yes.
So that could be
Yes.
Yoga Maya, perhaps.
Yes. Yes. That's what I'm
You
trying to say.
saying. Right.
Hello.
Ah.
In my knowledge, there are 3 obstacles for human beings. First obstacle is materialistic obstacle. Second one is natural obstacle. Third one is spiritual obstacles. I think Yoga Maya means the spiritual obstacle, which means you are distracted with many things in this in the way of spiritual